are here, aka Pure Freakout 10, bringing another episode of the Movie Review Show, with the good movies always reviewed. Okay, back into our movie review. Hold on one sec. Alright, now, on today's episode, I'm going to take a look at a film that is a superhero film made in the late 90s. Oh boy, we could be going up a dead street, but honestly, a lot of people, I just want to get this out of the way first, not all superhero films in the 90s were bad. Because there was actually a point when they were actually pretty good, because a lot of people consider the 90s to be the dead age of superhero films. There were some good ones back then, because in 1992 we had Batman Returns, which freaked a lot of parents out, but there was still some fans, some of which claimed to be better than the big hit that was 1989's Tim Burton's Batman. While Batman Returns did set the standard that the first movie set, it was still a good sequel. While not as good as the first, still had its fun. It was Tim Burton's interpretation of Batman, and he succeeded. And then we had The Crow, an awesome movie starring Brandon Lee, and the film that ended his life. So, honestly, yeah, but still, this film is amazing. Great CGI, great effects, great acting, great character, a tragic backstory really put well to the screen. It was just a really great film. And Batman Forever, which a lot of people debate about, but for me personally, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Now, after that, superhero films took a turn for the worst. We had The Crow City of Angels, Steel with Shaquille O'Neal, Batman Forever. That's how much respect I have for Batman Forever. I think a lot of people have that same amount of respect. So yeah, 1997 was the worst year for superhero films. All because of Steel and Batman and Robin. And those films seemed to show that comic book movies were at a dead end with no way to go up. That was until 1998 when we got Blade, which saved the comic book series. And of course we had X-Men and of course Spider-Man very recently. Hopefully I'll see how Daredevil is. But a lot of people don't see this, but there was another film in 1997 that really kind of introduced some new kind of techniques to the superhero genre. And a lot of people don't consider that, but this film incorporated many different kind of techniques to do a film like that. For starters, this was the film to not have DC or Marvel plastered onto it. This was done by the company Image. Well, this character was based on a character from Image Comics. And also, another reason, because we also got the idea of a black character being a superhero. This was the film to incorporate that kind of element. And for those wondering what that film is, this is a film that was considered by the advertiser to be the special effects event of the year. It's a film that no one saw beauty in, but I'll get into that later. For those wondering what that film is, that film is none other than Spawn. Hell yes, Spawn, baby. Yeah. But for those wondering, Spawn is a character from Image Comics that was created in 1992 by Todd McFarlane, who worked at DC for a bit, but he also did a little bit of Marvel. He did some of the Spider-Man issues, which I showed in my review. But his baby was Spawn. And for those wondering, yes, I am a fan. This is literally the handful of Spawn comics that I have. But yeah, I love Spawn. And I even have, for those wondering, let me get it. I even have the figure of Spawn. This is literally from the issue. And also, you guys want to see more proof? You guys want more proof? Oh, stand up there. I'll stick it up later, but those who want more proof, look at that. Got the animated series. And for those wondering, these are the issues of Spawn that I have. The first issue, great way to start. But we get into some of my favorites. Issue 2. This was like the introduction of the villain that everybody talks about, but I'll talk about that when I talk about the film. Issue 3. Issue 4, one of my favorites. I love this cover. Issue 5. Well, that was like the Billy Kincaid storyline, which I wish they would do a movie on, but Issue 6. Issue 7. Issue 8. Issue 9 and Issue 10, and this is one I'm currently reading at the moment, Issue 11. But I'm going to put these away. But yeah, I love Spawn. I love the comic. I think, for me personally, Batman ain't got heck on Spawn. For me personally, I think Spawn is cooler than Batman. That's just me, though. I know a lot of people may disagree with me, but for me personally, Spawn is just cooler than Batman. Yeah, but let me just get these away, and I'll be right back. Because I hate having these out. Alrighty. But yeah, I love the character of Spawn. I just love the kind of feel that Todd McFarlane gives with the character. I think he does it really well. I think he looks cool. I like the necroplasm suit that he gave him. And just the fact that he uses guns. No other superhero did that. But yeah, he was my kind of hero. He just didn't take junk. He was the fast type. He was just one of the most unique ones out there. That's why I love Spawn. I think that he just does. There's no other way to put it. He's just so cool that I gotta itch my nose again as I'm talking about this. But yeah, he's just so cool. There's no limits to him. There's no kind of ways to say that's too inappropriate for kids, even though kids read it too and they bought the toys. But that's what was so cool about Spawn. There was no limits to him. And Image knew what the heck they were doing. They knew who they were pleasing. And they just really brought that well to the character, his attitude, and just the world around him, which is all really well drawn. Todd McFarlane just did a great job, or does a great job with the character, and really brings the world to life with the comic. So yeah, but Spawn was a big thing for a lot of people in the 90s, and Todd McFarlane just was credited as really bringing the character to life. He really, in fact, even some have said that he's better than Batman, better than anything that Marvel's ever done. I can't agree there, but he's just, to me, one of my favorite superheroes, and I think he's one of the most unique ones out there. And so Todd McFarlane was anxious to do a movie on Spawn, and so in 1997, Spawn came to theaters. Now, this movie was heavily hyped. This was just a hyped film. The same year you had the HBO animated series, but this movie was so hyped for a lot of people. They were just so anxious to see it. Todd McFarlane was anxious to get this in theaters. He really wanted to please fans of Spawn. And he really wanted to set a layer that no other comic book movie could set before. So he enlisted the help of a few people. He enlisted the help of ILM to really bring the character to life. K and B, which we'll get to later, and just really wanted to give fans the superhero movie that they want to see out of Spawn. And that's really where this movie came to be. This movie was for the fans and to please them. But the film came out, it didn't do as well as they hoped. The box office records, while decent, it wasn't like anything to write home about. The critical reception was really negative, one of which being from Gene Siskel. But I gotta say this. I really gotta say this. What's weird about me in this film is that this was my introduction to Spawn. This was literally where I started with Spawn. This is what introduced me to the character. And what's funny about it is I didn't know who Spawn was until I saw this film. But how I found out about this film was through a good friend of mine, Pete Moulton, who told me, this movie's awesome. I saw it in the theater. He saw it in the theater, enjoyed it, and I was like, I gotta see it. I saw the trailer, but I saw how much negativity this film got that it just disturbed me. And I will admit, I saw it for the first time. I thought it was okay, but I watched it again, and I gotta say, I've grown to love this movie. I've literally grown to love this film. I know that this film is getting a lot of negative attention, but at the same time, I'm glad that there are people who do like this film. I know my friend Movie Dr. Phil, I know he likes the film. I know my friend Pete Moulton, as I already mentioned, I know he likes the film. And so yeah, this film definitely has its fans, but it's definitely put in the realm of what people consider to be one of the worst comic book films of all time. Why? Why the hell does this need to be put in that realm of worst comic book films of all time? Why the hell do I get people telling me why this film sucks? Why? Why? Why is this even considered one of the worst comic book films of all time? That I have never got. Even watching this film now, I still have so much fun with it. I saw a few people review this film say they hated it, and to each their own, but I love this movie. I do. This film is just so much fun. It's a great film. It's literally a great film for me. But yeah, for those wondering, this is the director's cut. This movie was PG-13 when it came out, which we'll get to. I gotta talk about that, but what I love about this case is that in the thing, you get a thing from Todd McFarlane, and if you open it up, it's got, like, this thing here, because this is what these little snap cases were doing with their DVDs. They would put the thing in, they would have, like, this thing here, talk about well, I should say, like, talk about the film. Maybe they'll just be, like, a pamphlet of something, but if you open it up, it's got the scene selection, the features, and talk about the stuff and whatnot, but get to that later. But the film was made, as I said, in 1997. This is directed by Mark A.Z. DePay. Now, Mark A.Z. DePay hasn't really done much in the film industry. He's more of an effects guy. He helped out with Jurassic Park. He did the effects for Terminator 2. So he's had a hand in a lot of effects work. Those are two films that really push CGI to their limit, which there is a ton of CGI in this film. It's probably why this film is credited as the special effects event of the year. But I will admit, I was skeptical when I heard that this guy was an effects guy and that he was taking the job of really bringing Spawn to the big screen, which was really, really strange. And just to point out that there are definitely some differences in the film, but talk about that later. But moving on, I don't want to waste any more time, but the film stars Michael Jai White, who has been in a few films I really don't know much about. I just know him from this film. I think he was in a few martial arts films. I could be wrong, but This is like my introduction to him. You also have John Leguizamo in this film from the past. He was in Super Mario Brothers, among many others. You also have Martin Sheen in this film. Yeah, Charlie Sheen's dad is in this film from Apocalypse Now and whatnot, which there's actually a funny story to this. I was listening to the commentary about this, and Martin Sheen was like sitting down to dinner, and he announced that he was doing this film, and his I think his nephew or his grandson was like, Spawn, these Spawn? He's like, what's the big deal? And he's like, it's only the most important comic book in the world. That had me laugh because I would have been like that if my uncle was doing Spawn. But you also have Teresa Randall, who had a small appearance in The Guardian. For those wondering, she was in the scene where she fell off like the cliff where Camilla. Well, I should say she was originally gonna babysit Jake in that film, but she fell off this. It's not really confirmed if Camilla did that or not, but she falls off. She falls off riding a bike and gets killed after she gets in like I don't know what's called. She was also in Bad Boys and whatnot. You also have Nicole Williamson from Exorcist 3. He's in this film. You have D.B. Sweeney playing Terry. Al Simmons' his friend, which there's a difference in this from the comic of Terry, because in the comics Terry is black, but in this movie they made him a white guy because New Line Cinema said we didn't want people to think that this movie was targeted to the black audience, so we had to make this guy white, which I will admit was a stupid decision. You also have Melinda Clarke in this film from Return of the Living Dead 3, which I actually got for my birthday right here. I'm complete and whatnot. She's hot. Yeah. But yeah, really good cast in this film. I definitely like the cast of this film. And, but yeah, I don't think this film gets the credit it deserves. I really don't. I see so many people bashing it. I see so many people just giving this film so much hate. And I watched it just recently, and I gotta say, I don't see what's that bad about the film. Granted, there are some points where I could kind of say, yeah, I can understand why people may not like it, but there's definitely one thing I can agree on with people, but I'll get into that later. And while I can say this is definitely much better, and I think if they put this in theaters, if this was the movie Spawn, because Todd McFarlane was like, oh, I take that money and make an R-rated animated film. I think if they put this in theaters and this was like the TV show, I think that the movie would have been a big hit. That's the thing. The movie would have been a much bigger hit. But I can agree that is much better, but the movie, I don't see it as bad as people have made it out to be. But I'll get into why later. But anyway, the basic plot of the film is basically this. It's an origin story. There's no need to talk about it. Well, there is a need, but there is no need to basically go into depth about it. We meet Al Simmons, played by Michael Jai White, who's working for the CIA, which is run by Jason Wynn, played by Martin Sheen, and Priest, played by Melinda Clarke. And they're forcing Al to go on missions where he's basically doing the wrong thing when he's told that he's making good for the world. And basically, we learn that Wynn is in league with the devil, and his minion, Clown, played by John Leguizamo, who's also known as the Violator. And they want Al to lead the army of hell so they can kill God. So pretty much, Wynn sends him on a mission where he has to go to this North Korean refinery and basically destroy it. But basically, they set him up, and he gets burned to a crisp, and he goes down into the hell world, and basically makes a deal with the devil, Malbolgia, who's actually voiced by Frank Welker, surprisingly, that if he leads the army of hell, he'll be allowed to see his wife Wanda again. So, of course, he agrees to doing it, but the devil tricks him and sends him back 5 years later. And so pretty much he goes home and finds that Wanda has found a new guy who's actually his best friend, and has a child now who's actually his own, which is another thing changed from the comics. There's a couple changes that I don't want to go into, but he meets Clown, played by John Leguizamo, as I said, and basically, Clown is basically fooling with him and tricking him and whatnot, and really trying to push him to kill Win, so that basically they could take his soul and basically have him in the world of hell. Because if he does that one vile thing, that'll complete the list. Like, it almost feels like there's a limit to it. It almost feels like he's up to the point where he has done a lot of bad, and if he does this, that'll break it. That'll get him into hell. Meanwhile, as that's going on, Jason Wynn is basically also starting up this virus that he wants to use and unleash it to the world and whatnot. Why? Because he's rich and famous. So now Spawn, while that's going on, we also have this guy Cagliostro from issue 9, who is basically trying to convince Spawn to change his ways and tell him that this isn't right, you should go this particular way. And now Spawn is going to have to make a choice on whether he should kill Win and get his revenge and agree with the Clown, or basically he might have to basically do the right thing and save the world and stop it from basically becoming the hell world it is, and use the armor that he has as basically a means of controlling himself rather than a weapon. That's the best way to put it for me. But Spawn, I love this movie. I really do. I don't get the hate this film gets, but there are some points I can understand why people don't like this film. Because, for one thing, when this film came out, it was PG-13. And that I can understand. But when you really sit down and watch it, you can still see the comic there. By the way, this is the one based on the film. This is actually a cool figure. I love that gun from the film. Put down my dog. I always love that line, but when you really sit down and analyze it, you can still feel the kind of gruff reality that the comic brings to the pages, and I think it translated really well to this film. I feel Marquez E. DePay had a great understanding of the world of Spawn and the environment that the comics portrayed the city in and whatnot. And I think he does it really well. I think he really brings the pages to life. I think he really brings the reality of, like, this really gruff, corrupt world to the screen. And he really brings the characters to life. And that's not only through his direction, but the actors bringing all their characters to the world and really understanding the reality of the world, hell itself. I just think it was really well done. Call me crazy, but I think it was well done. Then again, I have the right to the opinion. But I really love Marquez E. DePay's direction. I really love how they handled his origin. I know a lot of people don't think that the origin was handled that well, but I thought they did it really well. It feels like it's going in the same vein as The Crow. And while Crow does it in a way where it really is more on, like, a character study, this one just feels more hard-edged than that film. While Crow is hard-edged, there's a sign of subtlety to it that this film, while it tries to have that subtlety, it goes more for a hard edge. That's what this film is trying to do. It goes more for a hard edge and a really kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of sense of humor attitude. And I love that about the film. And that's kind of what the comics had a little bit of, too. They kind of had that tongue-in-cheek sense of humor with a serious vibe. And I think that it's really done really well in this film. So, yeah, and it's definitely done seriously, too. And even though it is PG-13, you still get that vibe. You still understand it well, too. And I just think it's done really well. The way the city looks, the Rat City area, the characters' clothings, all of which seem to respect the characters that were in the comics. So, yeah. But the acting in the film is top notch. Michael Jai White, I know a lot of people rag about him. Let me just itch my nose. I know a lot of people rag about him as Spawn, but Michael Jai White, I thought, did a great job. Now, a lot of people may say Keith David is a better Spawn, but I think they're both good. It's pretty much like Cesar Romero and Jack Nicholson. They're both completely different. Michael Jai White, I think, does it in his own way, and I think he does it really, really well. I like his sincere kind of vibe to the character, and I really love the scenes where when he first comes back as Spawn, he's walking through like this alleyway and he feels lost. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And you have that song, "It's a long, hard road out of hell. I wanna live. I wanna love." But that scene was awesome. And you really start to feel like this guy is lost after he's come back. You really feel like what is going on with this guy, and as he's like climbing down like that chapel and he's like looking at himself and the green glow's coming out of his eyes, which someone said that looked silly. That was in the comics too. So you can't say, oh, it looks silly. That was in the comics too. So yeah, my nose is itching. I hate these not spring, I wish it was spring, winter kind of things. But I thought he did it really well. I thought he did it really well with the sympathy kind of vibe to the character. I think he did it really well with the subtlety of the character. And even when he does get angry, it seems to represent the kind of anger that Spawn felt in the comics. And while Keith David kind of is more gruff and angry with the character, Michael Jai White, I feel kind of goes more for, and I know Movie Dr. Phil brought this up, and watching the cartoon a little bit, you can definitely kind of see that. But while Keith David tries to bring that sympathy, Michael Jai White really kind of goes for a lost in the world kind of guy with these weapons, and really thinks like, I gotta use them, and not knowing what his choices are. And I love that about Michael Jai White's Spawn. And even when he is angry, it's understandable why he is angry. And he just did it really well. He did it really well in the film. So Michael Jai White was really well done. But one of my favorite things about the film is John Leguizamo as the clown. John Leguizamo was the perfect choice. I gotta say this. He was born for the part. He just brought the energy of clown to life. He really had to go through a lot to play this character, and he just brought him to the screen really well. I cannot emphasize that even more. John Leguizamo was born for this part. I just love the attitude that he brought to this character, which, yes, I know in the comics he was a little bit more kind of like gruff, and John Leguizamo tries to go, well, I should say gruff. He was more murderous and more vengeful and really more kind of like, I want to kill this guy. John Leguizamo tries that, but he really kind of goes for more the comedic side that Clown was doing in the comics, because this is PG-13, but you still get that side to him. You still get that feeling that John Leguizamo is the character. Clown is perfectly portrayed the way he is. While not as murderous as he is in the comics, or the cartoon for that matter, John Leguizamo just portrayed it perfectly. There are so many memorable lines of dialogue, and I think Movie Dr. Phil, you'll remember this one. Did like Satan send you guys? How come God hugs up all the good followers and we get all the retards? Or, sorry for the turbulence, folks. He's harmless. He's safe as milk. Just a freak accident with some Jiffy Pop. Or, I got more tricks than your hooker, than your $5 hooker. But John Leguizamo was terrific as this character. Also the scene where the scenes where he's talking with Wit and he has those smarky remarks, or even when he's talking with Spawn, there's a lot of energy, and I really love how he portrays that really well. But John Leguizamo was phenomenal as this character. You also have Martin Sheen as Win, and Martin Sheen I liked as this character. Martin Sheen I thought did a really good job with him, but there is kind of a little thing I don't like. The character of Jason Wynn just feels shoved in there. He really doesn't feel like he offers much to the movie. He really just feels there. But while Martin Sheen does a good job as this character, I feel at times, because he does emphasize the gruff side that Wynn was in the comics. Well, I should say comics that I haven't read that far. But in the TV show, when you do see the kind of like persuasive side that he gave him, I definitely thought he did it really well. But he just feels shoved in there, and he doesn't feel like the threat that he is in the comic or the TV show. And I know a lot of people say, and I know a lot of people are going to bring up, oh, he said that thing about the trigger and whatnot. Here's how I see it. Maybe it was for the time being. Maybe it was for the time being, because I think like they were going to release it in like a little bit or something. Maybe it wasn't going to be in him for that long, like his whole life. But I thought, while he was good, I just really felt that he could have been used in the film, or could have been done as a bigger threat than like he was in the cartoon. But again, he does what he can. Martin Sheen, while I think did a good job, I really felt he could have amounted just a tiny bit more. That's not to say his character is bad. That's not to say how he does it is bad. Because he does it really well. But it could have been done so much better. Teresa Randall also feels a little bit kind of underwritten at times. Because while the acting is well done, and they definitely emphasize the characters that they're playing, just to make it clear, all the characters are emphasized really well. It's just some of them feel really underwritten and really just feel like shoved in there to say, hey, that's that character from the comic. But Teresa Randall, I felt, could have been done with more emotion. I felt there could have been more scenes with her developing her character more. And I felt that instance could have been better handled for a film like this, especially since Wanda is like the main reason in the comics. She's the main reason Al came back. Shouldn't there be more emotion scenes with her? Nope. That's immediately in favor of just her just there at this podium doing like this speech and whatnot. But I just feel she could have amounted to more. Even though we do get those scenes with her, and we do get those scenes where she's like, every time you go out, you come back as a different person. Those scenes I thought were really well done and heartwarming, and they definitely emphasize how much Al loves Wanda and how much Wanda loves him. And those scenes I thought were really carried well, but I felt that when he does come back, I felt a lot more could have been emphasized about her. Does she still miss Al? Does she hold regret to marrying Terry and whatnot? But no, none of that is even remotely talked about. And it may sound like I'm nitpicking, but other than that, felt could have been done better. But you also have Miko Hughes as this little kid who I forgot to mention. For those who don't know, Miko Hughes was actually in Pet Sematary. He was Gage. He's actually this little kid who wasn't in the comics, but I think they added him in here to humanize Spawn more, and I thought he did what he could. I thought he was fine. His character was likable, and definitely better than he was in New Nightmare. I didn't like him in New Nightmare, but I thought he did fine here. I thought he was a likable kid. I like that scene where he tries to hand Al a Coke, and he's like, just get out of here, kid. I'm like, a little kid like that gave me a Coke, I'd be happy. But Nicole Williamson's also here as Cagliostro, and I think he does it really well in this film. I think he really he's another person who brings their character to life perfectly, even though he looks different because they didn't let him have the beard. Well, he didn't want the beard. I thought he did really well with this character. Definitely a really likable guy. Definitely, I like his delivery with some of his lines. I like the narration. And I just felt he did a good job. That's all that needs to be said. Even though they're really showing that they're setting him up for something bigger, but overall, I think he did fine. I like some of the scenes where he's with Spawn, and they start off kind of like with this rocky kind of relationship, but it eventually kind of becomes more into like this kind of father figure relationship that is really well done. That is really well done for this film. So, yeah, and D.B. Sweeney I also thought did fine. For what he had to do, even though he is a white guy and Terry is a black guy, I thought he tried to do what he could. Even though Terry isn't as emphasized as much in this movie as he is in the comics, I thought he did what he could. And it's clear he isn't the main focus in this as much. It's clear that it isn't like his movie as much, or it isn't his side to the story. But enough of all that. Later on into the film, when we finally get Spawn, holy hell. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but the effects of this film are tremendous. Well, not all of them. Just want to say not all of them. I know a lot of people are going to say the hell looks horrible, and believe me. Just to make it clear, they only had 2 weeks to work on it. Granted, that's no excuse for how bad it looks, but they only had 2 weeks to work on it. And the hell in the background, it looks good. It looks fine to me. I like the background of the hell, and it just looks really unique for hell. And whereas a lot of other films try and basically add hell, really act like hell is this kind of place where it's like Little Nicky, which I like that hell, but I just felt this was a unique portrayal of hell. I felt that this was one of the more original portrayals of hell. I mean, it's definitely a lot better than, say, what else? I don't know what else the kind of hell there was, but I like the way hell is portrayed here. I like it the way it's done. But what kills the hell, and I gotta say this, is the abysmal devil that they use. Like, quite literally. The devil is... I can't swear, but this devil is freaking horrific. And not in the way, oh, scary. This is one of the laziest looking devils I have ever seen on film. This is literally, like, even when I saw this for the second time, I was like, yeah, this devil effect is horrible. Now, just from afar. When it's from afar, it looks great. Like, when it comes out like this, it looks great. But when they get up in front of his face and whatnot, and you see, like, and you can see, like, the pixelation in his face. Like when he's up here and his mouth's, like, right there, it's so freaking horrifically rendered. It looks so bad. I mean, I agree with Roger Ebert on the hell, but, like, because Roger Ebert gave this 3.5 out of 4 stars, but when he went into, like, the hell, which I agree with him on, but when he talked about the devil, like, which I know he got mixed up with the Violator, but literally, this hell, like, that devil is freaking horrendous. I mean, Frank Welker does a good job, but I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, his mouth's open when he's talking. Like, that's how he was in the cartoon. But other than that stupid-looking devil, or that horrendously rendered devil, I mean, would that even fly in 97? Would that even fly in 97? Because I think even by 1997, that effect would not fly today. That is how bad it looks. That is one of the worst, actually I say, that is the worst looking devil I have ever seen on screen. But yeah, I'm being cool on that because There are so many good films with CGI that look great in the 90s. I love, like, Deep Blue Sea looks great. Even like a Wishmaster, which that has some cool CGI effects. Like, I'm not always bashing CGI. If it's done uniquely and rendered well, I think it can work. Wishmaster does it really well. And despite that, this also does it really well. Like, the suit looks great. Like the CGI on the suit, I think is really well done. The chains coming out, that looks really, really cool. And the action scenes, I know one person said, I can't think of a single action scene in this film. The action scenes are tremendous in this film. They're really well done. There's some good action to the scenes. The effects, the stunt work is really cool. The choreography, and the CGI, I think, looks really great. Especially for 1997. This was some cool CGI for 1997. I think it looks great today, too. But like the chains, as I said, like even that scene where his hands turn into like sticky fingers and he's like crawling around that building. That is some great effects. This is some fantastic effects. Like even like the cape, which I know a lot of people say the cape looks horrible and it retracts into him, whereas in the comics he walks around with it more. In this movie, he it's more retracted into him. So probably for the budget, but I think the cape looks phenomenal. The cape is awesome. What else? Definitely the makeup is definitely really well done. Like Spawn's burnt face and clown's form also look really well done, and they should. K&B had a hand in this, and Robert Kurtzman, Greg Nicotero, and Howard Berger all did the effects, and they look great. The makeup on them looks fantastic, and really brings the characters to life, and that's how they should be in this film. And Industrial Light and Magic did the effects, which should be good, and they should look good. This is the same team that did Jurassic Park. Even when even when Clown becomes the Violator, I like that transformation of him. I think that was a cool effect. Even when he's walking, and they did it in the same way they did the effects for Jurassic Park. So, of course it's got to look good. But there's some really good effects in this film, and I think a lot of them are really well done, really cool in a lot of scenes. And I will say that hell fight is really cool. I'm going to say that. Even like the car chase scene, I thought that was really cool. I mean, I've seen this film dozens and dozens of times, and it doesn't get tired for me. I got to say this is one of my favorite comic book films. I think it's one of the most unique ones out there. I know I'm probably might have my like nostalgic glasses on, but I love this movie. I think it's fun. I love the soundtrack as well. I like the Marilyn Manson song, Fiddler, Trip Like I Do. Trip like I do. But I don't think this film gets the credit it deserves. Granted, it does have some problems I already mentioned. I don't like the devils horribly rendered, how the devil's horribly rendered, and some of the characters feel underwritten at times. And at times, what else did I not like? Those are the only two things I really didn't like. Other than that, I feel the Spawn is a fun time that I don't think it's the... Let me just speak. Other than that, Spawn, I think it's a fun time that I don't think gets the credit it deserves, and if you have not seen this film, I highly recommend you check it out. Don't listen to the bad reviews. If you don't like the film, that's fine. At least you can say that you watched it and whatnot. But if you don't like the film, and if you've not seen the HBO series, I highly recommend you check out the HBO series. I think it's a great substitute for the movie if you didn't like it. But do I feel this film, as I said, or you guys already know the answer, does this film deserve the hate that it gets? No. But do I think it's like the greatest film ever, and do I think like it's the most perfect movie ever? No. Definitely no. But I love the movie, and I definitely have a soft spot for it, and that's probably why I enjoy the film, because it introduced me to the character, and because of this film, maybe I wouldn't love the character so much. If I didn't see this film, would I be introduced to the character? Probably, but probably not. I would never introduce myself to the character, but I love this movie. I really do. If you don't like the film, that's fine, and there's a lot of people that do, but I'm glad that there are people that really enjoy this film. But other than that, I give Spawn an 8.5 out of 10. It deserves it, and it gets my seal of approval. I'm sorry, I have to do that. I really have to do that. I love this film. I think it's just a really well-made film. If you don't like the film, that's fine. That is just fine. Well, I shouldn't say it's fine. It's my opinion. Ha ha! But really enjoy this film, and if you have not seen, if you like the Spawn comics, I highly recommend you check this film out. Hopefully, we'll get another Spawn film, and it'll continue the story from this, and I hope it does it really well, because there's so much reference in this that I think could be done for a sequel. But, yeah. That is my review for Spawn, and next time I'm going to do a review of The Hot Chick with Rob Schneider. Oh boy, we're going to be up the creek for that. But I just want to do a quick update on films I got. The first one I got is a film that I actually want to review sometime in the future in another snap case. This was for my birthday, and that is Clive Barker's Nightbreed. This is actually based off his book Cabal. Talk about that in the future. Yeah, I already mentioned this film, but this is one I got. Really excited to review this sometime in the future. I already talked about the first two. Return of the Living Dead 3. This is one that I've been hunting down on for the longest time. Gonna review on that. The next one I got is a film that really wanted to take a look at for the longest time. And that is Beverly Hills Cop. Remember my friend talking about this, saying he enjoyed it. And then we have Total Recall. This is the special edition. Definitely going to do a review on this once I see it. Special edition, get a nice little booklet, whatnot. But yeah, I know this review is 46 minutes, but there's so many people that do longer videos than this. But yeah. I'll see you guys later. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the movie Spawn. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I love the film. And just don't be if you guys don't like the film, tell me why in the comments below. And if you guys disagree with me or whatnot, just tell me why. Don't be a jerk about it, or don't be like, because I hate people like that. I hate people that will just go to the lengths to be a jerk just because of an opinion. But just tell me what you guys think in the comments. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. And